hardest part was keeping a good supply of food.
Down my burdens, down by...
I was the first man to paint a portrait of every bird in North America.
It was also at Cambridge that I met Reverend Henslow.
My life flows on in endless flow of water.
I was out scouting those rebels. There were rebels behind me.
In today's episode of History in Person, we meet Harriet Beecher Stowe, a brilliant writer whose book, Lincoln Said, started this little war.
Abraham Lincoln is so funny. I visited with him a week ago at the White House, November of 1862. The first thing he said to me when we met was, "So, this is the woman who wrote the big book that started the Great War." And then we laughed and he taught jokes and we even did a little singing. He thinks he can't sing, but I like how he sings and I adore what he says. I live now in Andover, Massachusetts. The year is 1862 right now. And the town of Andover is a singing town. What a wonderful group. In my book, believe it or not, there are so many songs. Each song has a reason. When I wrote to my editor at the beginning of Uncle Tom's Cabin, before I sold it to her, I said, I paint scenes with words and songs. So the first song I want to share with you is the Slavery Code of Escape. I'm going to sing it a bit and then tell you what it all means. Ready, Calvin?
Sure.
Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. These are the words that are the code of escape. Whenever you hear the word chariot, it represents the Underground Railroad. You'll hear the River Jordan, which represents the Mason-Dixon line. South of that line, the slaves are entrapped and not free. North, they are free. And angels are people that help them escape, like Harriet Tubman, whom sadly I have never met. But this is a marvelous song, and now I'll sing it from the beginning. Calvin. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. I looked over Jordan. What did I see? Coming for to carry me home. A band of angels coming after me, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. If you get there before I do, coming for to carry me home. I have been to Europe 4 times since my book was published in 1852. Each of these trips to Europe was a lecture tour I did about my book. Except, guess what? They didn't want me to talk. Women are not allowed to talk and give lectures. So I wrote it out, and my dear friend Calvin, who's my husband too, read what I wrote. When they were there and they could actually ask me questions, they were very wondering more about this code of escape. So I told them about the drinking gourd being a big dipper, with the handle of the dipper pointing to the North Star. So when the slaves wanted to escape, they followed the North Star, the handle of the dipper. And this song is an amazing code of escape. It talks about Pegleg Pete, who was a sea captain who lost a leg, and he was part of the angels who helped slaves escape on the Underground Railroad. So listen to this chorus, and I'll tell you more. Follow the drinking gourd, follow the drinking gourd. The old man's waiting to carry you to freedom. Follow the drinking gourd. So the old man is Pegleg Pete, and everywhere he went, he drew a picture of a peg leg on a tree, so the slaves would know to follow that peg leg. Here we go, more escape clues. The river winds between 2 trees. Follow the drinking gourd. The old man's waiting to carry you to freedom. Follow the drinking gourd. Follow the drinking gourd. Follow the drinking gourd. The old man's waiting to carry you to freedom. Follow the drinking gourd. The river bank makes a mighty good road. Follow the drinking gourd. Left foot, right foot, traveling on. Follow the drinking gourd. Follow the drinking gourd. Follow the drinking gourd. The old man's waiting to carry you to freedom. Follow the drinking gourd. In my book, I talk a lot about whistling. I connect whistling with 4 characters. In the 1800s here in America, whistling is very low class. So the 4 characters whom I had whistle are considered low class. This means, please, if you're curious, reread the book or read the book and find out who the people are who whistle and what that says about their character. One thing about me, Harriet Beecher Stowe, you may not know, is that I write hymns. I'm very famous for that. Read your local hymnal and you'll find my name. I learned how to write hymns when my 8 brothers and I go to revivals. We Stowes love revivals. Our father, Lyman Beecher, is such a revivalist. He speaks his sermons with fire and brimstone and gets carried away, and the day after he's given a shouting sermon, he can't talk. So, getting carried away with these Baptist hymns in these revivals is something I love doing. I like taking verses from one song, putting it with a different melody, and weaving it together. So this is one of my favorites, and it's sung at the end of my book by Uncle Tom. I wrote the verse. Well, I'll let you know when I get to it. Calvin? Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. 'Twas blind, but now I see. This song fits perfectly into the theme of my book, which means everyone can be saved, that there is redemption and heaven for everyone. The verse I wrote is, when we've been there 10,000 years. Calvin? When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, oh, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Chorus. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. 'Twas blind, but now I see. So look at your hymnal and look for my name. How in the world did I want to write my book, Uncle Tom's Cabin? One day in March of 1851, I was sitting in my church in pew 53, praying at the Plymouth Congregational Church in Brunswick, Maine. Brunswick, Maine is where Calvin taught theology at Bowdoin College, and I lived there while I wrote the book, Uncle Tom's Cabin. In the middle of this boring sermon, I had a vision. I had a vision of a black man being beaten to death by a white man. That vision was so real and so cruel. I ran out of the church 2 blocks to Federal Street, where we lived at the time, and I knew I had to write a book. All of my brothers and sisters and friends had been telling me I needed to write a book about ending slavery. So I began to write. Luckily, my brother, Henry Ward Beecher, was visiting. So he gave me ideas, and I wrote and I wrote. And I wrote to the National Era, a weekly magazine, which began to publish my chapters weekly, which meant I really had to write and to write and to write. During this time, I invited friends and students from Bowdoin College, my good friend Joshua P. Chamberlain, pay attention to him, folks, and they would give me feedback. I'd read what I'd written, and it was so helpful because I feel I was writing with the message from above. And during this writing time, all 6 of my children, yes, 6, wanted my attention, but they learned that when Mother was writing in her parlor, don't bother her. So I loved writing this. During this time, I went to a tea party on Bowdoin College campus. And one of my failings, I must admit, is huckleberry tonic. I take it when I'm feeling ill. So at the tea party, I refused tea. And I took some huckleberry tonic and was loving it. And then I sat down and my hoop skirt went up, showing my pantaloons. So from that day forward, I have worn only skirts without hoops. My twin girls, Eliza and Hattie, are so embarrassed with how I dress. They think I wear too many colors, and they think I would be more fashionable if I wore hoops. But I always remember the huckleberry tonic incident. So this whole writing and sending in a weekly chapter took all of my attention. And I had one of my girls do the cooking and the cleaning. I hated cleaning. I still do. I call the dust brownies. Get rid of the brownies in the house. So when I was writing, my twin girls took care of that. My goodness, I was so surprised at the reaction. People liked it, and they bought the National Era weekly. And when I finally wrote the last chapter in 1852, it hit the stands even more. And a publication in Boston asked if they could put all my chapters into a book, which I did. And between its publication and now, I have sold thousands of books, thousands, and they're now in 9 different languages. People come to Andover, Massachusetts to visit me, which makes me really happy, except I don't like cooking for people. But this is when my twins take over. Now you may think I might be getting stuck up, but nah, I'm not. In fact, I love fan mail. Calvin's in charge of my fan mail. He puts all the nice letters in a shoebox for me. And he puts all the negative letters, I don't know where he puts them, really. But he gets them out of my sight. And unfortunately, I opened a box that had the ear of a slave in it. Oh, my stomach turns. I go sick. I get depressed. I want to shout and cry. But Calvin quickly took that box with the ear in it away. I visited Virginia a couple of years ago, and people there don't like me. They shouted, "Go, go, go. Harriet, you go. Harriet Beecher Stowe, we don't want you go." Everyone knew this chant, which really upset me. So I don't travel in the South right now, as you can imagine. In the North, I'm very, very popular. In fact, I'm starting to write a new book, which you'll just have to wait for what it's about. Now, one of my most adventurous events I've had since the book came out was different authors, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Oliver Wendell Holmes Sr., Henry David Thoreau would like to visit me, and we would chat. And we decided to start a new magazine, The Atlantic Monthly. Wonderful. I have no idea how long this magazine will last, really. So as I'm in Andover most of the time, I often go to Boston to visit my brother and my father and other people. And in Boston, I have such fun. I have to confess, I in love being a celebrity. Who'd have thought shy little old Harriet Beecher, daughter of the minister Lyman Beecher, whoever thought I would like being a celebrity? The one thing wrong with that is it takes energy. And yet I think God has given me so much energy to have written this book. And the impact of my book, Uncle Tom's Cabin, on the whole country is really big. It started the Civil War, many people say, and oh my, I am proud of that. My family loves to brag that they are siblings of Harriet Beecher Stowe. And I love autographing my book. Again, here in Andover, Massachusetts, I often have to hide away because people come and bang on our door and want to talk to me. Now, sometimes I get the owling glums. My whole life, I've had the owling glums, even when I was a little girl. And if I was lost, if I were not knowing where I was, someone would come searching for me and say, Harriet, do you have those owling glums again? So I just did have the ability to tune out whatever was going on and escape into my own little world. Sundays at our house were really happy times. We were not allowed to sing forever except on Sundays, when my father would get his fiddle out and we'd all sing and dance and carry on. And my little doll, a lumberjack, a dancing doll, was used by everybody to be the percussion. So as I began to think about my life since I wrote that book, I am so grateful. I am so surprised. I love that God chose me to write this book. And I hope, if you haven't read it, that you will. Now, there are a lot of funny parts in it, a lot of funny characters, a lot of good music. And I would love to know what you think. So please write me a letter. Harriet Beecher Stowe, Andover, Massachusetts. And I promise you, I will read it. And I'll even write back. Well, my daughters will write back to you. They're my secretaries. Not only are they my cooks, my house cleaners, they are my secretaries. Without my big Beecher family, all of whom are famous and preach throughout the country, with them, I feel so supported. And I hope that you, in reading my book, will learn about the music and also maybe think differently about slavery, what you can do to help keep the slaves free. Thanks for visiting with me today. I had a great deal of fun and look forward to hearing from you.
You can do this. It's really not that hard. First, pick a character where you feel comfortable in their skin. I love Abraham Lincoln, but I'm not tall enough, so I play several friends of Lincoln. One of my favorite is Billy Herndon, his law partner. So if you can, read what they wrote, and then read for context. Think about not just Lincoln's Herndon, but Herndon's Lincoln, and make those connections. I also love to read about the time period, so Life on the Eighth Circuit, this is one of my favorite books. And of course, you could read one of my books. I've written several as various friends of Lincoln. And then once you've read, you don't have to tell their whole life story. Just one or two really pivotal moments in their life. And then think about costuming. I collect hats. And depending on who I'm portraying, I will have a different hat for that character, because the hats really help the character to come to life. Practice, and then send me a film of what you have recorded of your favorite historical character, and we might use it on the next episode of History in Person.